I'm here with John Hope Bryant, who is the founder of Operation Hope. John, we're here in Los Angeles at the Milken Institute Global Conference. 31 years ago yesterday, Rodney King riots. Very important moment for you. It's how you got your start with this, isn't it?
Rainbows after storms. Can I have a rainbow without a storm first? And that was in the streets. Now I'm in the suites. And it's a little bit of a weird feeling because now people are coming to me and trying to extract, resources or contact or whatever it is, But I was the guy 31 years ago trying to get somebody's attention.
What did
By
you
the way,
see?
thank you for you always showing up and paying attention to and making sure that people of color did not feel invisible. You always were present for us, and I'm so thankful for that.
Oh, thank
That's
you.
why I was just so honored to do this with you, because the least I could do is to show my presence with you as you've shown your presence for others.
You're doing such important work. I want to remind you, what was it you saw? How did you link what happened with, the terrible, attack on Rodney King? How did you link that back to inclusion and finance? Because that really it's been your life's calling, and you've done such important work.
You think about
nationally, globally.
You think about this. Rodney King was a moment that got videotaped 30 years ago. I mean, we see that all the time now, right?
Yeah.
George Floyd. But back then, that was the first time something got videotaped. So then it was believable. I realized that these were all 500 credit score neighborhoods. You saw a check casher next to a payday loan lender, next to a rental-owned store, next to a title lender, next to a liquor store, next to a pawn shop.
Yeah.
And they didn't have any access to capital, credit, at least not prime. Major markets, investors weren't paying attention to them. So I put bankers on a bus. We call it a banker's bus tour. And we toured the underserved neighborhoods right after the Rodney King riots and showed people and introduced bankers to business people in the neighborhoods. And once that relationship was connected together, people with the bankers were like, yeah, hey, you're a good person. We're speaking the same language. What do you need? What's your credit needs? Mm-hmm. Then we found we were the first entity to make the credit available to rebuild after the Rodney King riots. It was Handler's Pharmacy. Mm-hmm. I think it was at 49th and Western Avenue. And so that experience of being more PhD than PhD, mm-hmm. being action-oriented, was really our calling card in making free enterprise work for the least of these God's children. And tying that back into sort of today, because you can't develop a neighborhood or community without banking, without access to capital.
And the community banks have been especially hard hit. I'm thinking of First Republic. I mean, it's. Do you think that should these banks be saved when you look?
Yes.
Why?
Look, First Republic, I have literally the first company that loaned me an executive when I was 26 years old with this vision of Operation Hope was First Republic. Mm. And now Wells Fargo, they gave me some money. I needed that. But I also needed some human capital. I needed to translate the streets to the streets.
Yeah.
And it was First Republic Bank that loaned me one of their executives in 1992.
Wow.
I could access the manager at First Republic. I couldn't access the leadership at a money center bank. I put in an application at the major banks, and luckily we got funded. But I was able to get to the CEO and the regional leaders at the community banks. It wasn't just First Republic. It was banks that don't exist anymore, Hawthorne Savings Banks, a range of others, Imperial Thrift and Loan, all these. I could walk in the lobby and meet the CEO and make my case. Community banks have always been the heart of this country. If you were a farmer in the 20th century, you went to the local community bank. So I found that from that experience with First Republic, they were invaluable. Later on, I had a business deal that I was doing on the business side of my life. They made an investment in my business. I paid them back, $5 million investment. No other bank would have done it. They wouldn't have paid attention to me. But I was able to go and talk to them and literally structure a credit transaction. They funded into my Promise Homes company. I paid them back within a year. I was so proud. That then allowed other banks that are bigger banks to say, oh, if they did it, then maybe we'll do it too. And then later on, I was chairman of the advisory board for First Republic during the pandemic.
Yeah.
They did stuff that was innovative in the community that no other bank would do, and other banks follow their lead. And unfortunately, they were caught wrong place, wrong time, wrong moment, rising interest rates. Really not their fault. The business model plan had worked for a decade or more. They got caught in a bad moment, really, unfortunately, caught by the winds of Silicon Valley Bank.
Yeah.
I think we should have found a way to retain and sustain First Republic Bank. I was on the phone with their leadership even last week trying to find a way out of no way. And I think, where would I be? Where would countless other small businesses be without First Republic or other? I mean, who banks middle market companies? Small businesses.
Not the big banks. Because we're always talking about the big banks being too big to fail. Is that the wrong way to look at it? If you're in the government and you feel like you've got a fiduciary duty to, put your heart in check and keep your head, what's the right solution for a bank like First Republic?
I think we need to call them not so much too big to fail, but systemically important. And if you're talking about systemically important, that is the money center banks, but also the incredibly well run.
Yeah.
I guarantee you, the major banks made a mistake. That was the crisis of 2008, 2009. We had TARP. We had other things that had to save some of them. Right. But systemically important could have been First Republic. In other words, you need to have banks at all levels of the food chain, of the laddery system, that for different reasons are systemically important to the economic health of this country. When we start getting into somebody who's perfect, we'll find that we're talking to nobody because none of us are perfect. Well, a saint is a sinner that got up. We're all angels with dirty faces.
Yep.